Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel.
Since we have moved over to Canada, we've had a couple of people reach out and ask us questions about the process, how we got here, what it cost, what we had to do, all of those things. So we thought we'd make this little video to answer some of the questions that we got sent on Instagram and provide a little bit more information about the process. So the first question we got was, how long is the entire process? Was it difficult waiting for your POE, and why did you choose Canada? So firstly, we'll talk about why we chose Canada. We had slightly different reasons for it. For me personally, I had a huge trip planned in 2020 where I was going to travel around Canada, not come to live, and then go work over in the States. So with all of that being cancelled, I just had an idea that maybe we could come over on a little bit more of a permanent basis. And that was in about March 2020 when things kind of hit the fan. So we started looking at other ways to get over here, and Canada has just always been one on the top of my list. It's just so beautiful, so really cool to me in that regard. And when I couldn't travel here, working here was the next best thing, and now I think it is the better choice anyway.
My reason for Canada was originally definitely because of the snowboarding. And then after seeing like all the different landscapes and just realizing I can be around the mountains and everything, that's definitely what pulled me in.
Of course, us, we're huge nature people at home. We go camping and love getting out and exploring all the time. So being able to live and work and do all that here is just a dream come true already. When we put up our question box, we got a lot of questions about the actual process and the visa that we are on and how we managed to sort all of that out. So we are both on an IEC visa. It is a International Experience Canada working holiday visa. It is a 2-year open work permit, which means we're not locked into any employers and we can move around and travel as much as we want to. The whole process took us 4 months. I think. Yeah. We started looking for jobs in June. So with the IEC, during COVID, the process changed and you had to have a job offer before coming over. In the past, you were able to come over without a job offer and just find work when you got here and then travel and work however you wanted. But because travel was so restricted internationally, you had to actually have a job to come over to show that your travel was purposeful. So we started looking for a job in June. We got jobs, I think towards the end of June, started July. And then the way Canada does it, it's really strange. So you have to enter a pool of applicants. Each country has a different agreement with Canada about how many people that Canada will invite from that country to come over. For Australia, that amount is unlimited, which is amazing, but it's a really randomized process. So you enter the you enter the pool, and then you have to wait for an invitation to apply. Once you get that invitation to apply, you have, I think, 10 days to accept it, and then 20 days to actually give them all of your information. So that is your application, your police check, driver history report. For Australians, we have to do that as well. And then you submit your application. They responded for us in about 2 or 3 days to send us a biometrics letter. So we actually had to go in person to an office in Melbourne and give our fingerprints and photos as part of our application. And then it's only once that appointment is done that your processing time actually starts ticking. So for me, it took 5.5 weeks. I think about 5 weeks to get my approval and IEC sent through.
Mine was about 6.5, maybe 7, cutting it very close to our departure day.
Yeah, when we left, the processing time was sitting at about 12 weeks. So it was quite a long process, and even though Tristan and I submitted everything together at the same times, our approvals did not come through together, which was super stressful, and that was part of our questions. Was it difficult waiting for our POE? So that's our point of entry letter. You actually don't get your visa until you land in Canada and go through immigration. So that's where they approve it there. But for us, it was super, super stressful just because we wanted to leave and Tristan only got his visa the Saturday before we left, and we left on the Wednesday. So yeah, I hope that explains a little bit. Since restrictions have eased in Canada now, visitors are actually allowed. So that job offer is not mandatory anymore. So you can enter the pools and do all of that without the job offer. Another question that we got on Instagram was, did you go with a company?
So we went with a company because, look, at the time we were originally planning on doing it ourselves, but come June we were both flat out with work and life was just all over the place and crazy. So we came across this company who we paid, and they walked us through step by step, and they also guaranteed us a job. So it just took a massive weight off our shoulders, and it just, worked easier for us at the time.
It's definitely a process you could do by yourself if you have the time and energy to invest into researching it and making sure you fill all the right boxes in the application process. I think not having to have a job also is
A lot easier.
A lot easier, yeah. And we wanted a job that we did want to come over and actually work in, so they were really helpful with that and got us a job in a ski resort. They even had a representative meet with us in Vancouver, give us all our information, walk us through the process once we actually got here, which was lovely as well. But yeah, it was definitely worth it, but you can do it by yourself if you would want to. Another question that we received was it hard to leave Australia and get the visa at the moment? So we'll answer the second part first. So was it hard to actually get the visa?
So to get the actual visa itself isn't hard. It's definitely time consuming, and if you're prepared with all the right documents, it's pretty smooth going.
You just need to be patient. It's just such an unreliable process, and you need to be prepared.
Yeah, definitely a waiting game, just waiting for those confirmation emails and like all the application stuff to go through. But the actual process itself is quite easy.
So the first part of that question was it hard to leave Australia? We actually found leaving Australia quite simple. We just had to apply for a travel exemption, but we got approval within 24 hours. We just had to fill out a stat deck to explain what we were leaving for, and we ticked a box that said we're not planning to come back within 3 months, and they approved it super quick. It was quite a straightforward process. There was a couple of other things we had to sort out as well.
Did also need to get vaccinated, which at the moment isn't essential, but it will be very shortly. And we just needed a negative COVID test. It was 72 hours before arriving.
The next thing that we had down to talk about, we actually didn't get a question about, but it was something that a lot of things we didn't consider before we left. And that was what to actually prepare and cancel before coming over here. So there was a couple of things that we had to sort out because we're not going to be back anytime soon. So cancelling like our phone bills, our car insurance, registration. Obviously that's a personal choice. No one's going to be driving my car and it's in quite good condition. So that is just going to sit there. I'll just re-register it when I get home.
I decided to sell my car last minute because the condition of it and all of that just wasn't worth having around, and the hassle of dealing with everything when I got back, it was just going to be too much of a headache. So I managed to sell that before leaving. Another thing that we didn't really think about until just before we left was our bank accounts. Obviously, because we wouldn't have money going into them, banks would start charging us fees, which we didn't consider until the last minute.
Yeah, so we ended up closing a couple of our accounts just because there was no point keeping them open if the banks are going to start charging us. So we've obviously opened accounts up over here and still kept one of them open. We've still kept our ING accounts open. But even those, I think if you stop depositing a certain amount of money, they might start charging you certain fees. Yeah. So yeah, that was another thing. Even just the way you access accounts, like I know with our MyGov in Australia, you need a mobile number to get into it. There's a couple of options there. I think you can get like a generator app on your phone. I saw, or we've just changed ours to a different number that we will be able to access a lot of things like that you don't consider. So I hope that is helpful for you as well. Another question that we got online was, are things in Canada as per normal or are they under restrictions?
So when we flew into Vancouver in BC, everywhere, if you wanted to dine in, you needed to show that you were vaccinated. Otherwise, think you could do takeaway.
Yep, you could do takeaway or sit outside, but if you wanted to go anywhere, pretty much you had to be vaccinated.
And it's just masks indoors. So if you're in a shopping centre or a store or anything like that, you need to wear your mask. But outside, everything seems pretty normal.
Yeah. We've since moved over to Alberta, which is where we're working and living. Slightly different here. So you don't have to mandate the vaccine in your business, but they've got a restriction exemption program. So businesses can choose, and a lot are. I don't think we've come across one that hasn't yet. So if you check people's vaccines and ID, then you have no restrictions. So I know where we're working this year, they're doing that, and we've got no dining capacity limits, nothing like that, provided everyone shows their proof of vaccination. Businesses can opt out of that if they don't wish to do it. However, then they have to operate with, reduced capacity limits and things like that. But other than that, again, we've got masks here, but not outside. And yeah, it's a lot nicer than home. We can travel pretty much. It's a lot easier. There's less restrictions and there's a bit more freedom. I think they've progressed a lot more and they have much higher vaccine rates than home. Another question that we got, which was one of our most researched things before we got here, and we came in quite blind, not knowing what to do, was, has it been expensive?
So definitely at the start, yes, it's quite expensive setting everything up. So without all of our snow gear, which we bought with us from home, so far we've probably spent about 11 to 12 grand each.
Yeah, obviously we've bought a van as well, which has been a huge expense. But we hadn't really been tracking anything before this video. So we've gone back through our finances, checked over so we can give you some more specific numbers, because it's so helpful. We just kind of picked a ballpark figure to save for before coming over here. But the more you know, the easier it is.
Definitely.
So our flights cost us $1,400. We flew with Cathay Pacific from Melbourne via Hong Kong to Vancouver, which wasn't too bad. I think I paid similar for return flights pre-COVID. So we were happy with that. Our insurance was pricey. To get the visa, you need to have the full 2 years of insurance. And especially with the world in the state it's in at the moment, majority of insurance companies are not operating. So we went with Covermore, and that cost us $2,600 each. As we mentioned at the start of the video, we went through the Working Holiday Club and they helped us get jobs and secure the visas. That cost us $700 each. We've both spent approximately $2 grand on snow gear. I chose to buy all mine before coming over predominantly, because I'd hoped to get lots of practice on the slopes in Melbourne. Not that happened thanks to COVID. And Tristan about the same. You can definitely just buy your stuff when you get here, especially if you're working in a snow resort. You will probably get it cheaper than what we did. Anyway, you live and you learn. Our car has been the biggest expense. Insurance and registration
in BC is
so expensive. 3.5 grand, which we did not account for when we were looking at buying a car. Roughly maybe 5 grand each we've spent on it. But yeah, you can definitely do it cheaper. You can definitely do it more expensive. It just depends on what you're looking for. The insurance costs, each province does it completely different. In BC, it's all privatized, so you have no choice of insurer. It's all just through the same thing. We'll be swapping our rego and insurance over to Alberta because that's where we're living now. It's like home in Alberta, though. You get to choose your insurance company, and then you just have to get your registration as well. So we'll see. We're hoping it's a little bit cheaper once we swap it over and we get a bit refunded. But that's been a huge expense. Without that, we probably were looking at maybe 5 or 6K to get set up. In terms of living situation, we're going to be living in staff accommodation at the moment. That is fast, ranging between $190 a fortnight to $250 a fortnight. Each. So we're looking at maybe $400 to $500 a month, which is really cheap. Living in Banff, you're looking at more than that generally.
That is like we're in a national park. basically. So everything's a lot more expensive.
It's pricey, and the wages here are a lot lower than at home too. So we haven't started getting paid yet. We're not sure how that's going to work. We're hoping we can just live off what we earn and go from there. But yeah, if you want to really move over, set yourself up, including snow gear, we've probably spent more like 15 grand. But that includes our road trip over and everything in the process too. So I hope that gave a little bit of an insight into it. Other than that, prices are pretty comparative to home, except here tax isn't included in everything and tips aren't included in everything. So you get the bill and you get a little bit of shock at the end, but yeah, that's about where we sit with it all at the moment. So another question we got was, are you both working?
So we are both working. We both started at the start of October. Because we did have to have a job before we could come over. So we both started that and we're working full time up on a ski hill.
Loving it. We just can't wait for more snow to hit. We hope that information was really helpful for you. As we mentioned in our first video, we tried to get as much as we could before we came over. So being able to hear someone else's experience, what they had to do, how much it cost, how long it took, would have been super helpful for us. If you're not planning to come to Canada, maybe not as useful, but hopefully it helps someone out.
So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.